Let's move to our next topic, which is instance block or init block and constructor overloading. And to better understand init block and instance block, first understand constructor overloading. What is constructor overloading? When you are defining more than one constructors in the same class with different parameters, then that is known as constructor overloading. It's just similar to method overloading. Like in method overloading, you can define different parameters by changing the sequence of parameters or by changing the data type of parameters or by changing the number of parameters. Similarly, you can also implement constructor overloading. Okay, to better understand constructor overloading, I'm taking this implementation. I have employee class having three properties, name, salary, and age. I'm instantiating the object of employee class by using this parameterized constructor, which is taking all three attributes from end user, right? Now, I want to initialize employee object in such a case where I don't have salary value. Might be while creating the object, not for all object I am having salary value. In that case also I want to create employee object. So how I'll deal with that situation? For that reason I am creating this one more constructor which is only taking name and age value, and in that case also it is initializing my employee object. Similarly, let's suppose age and salary is missing. In that case also I want to instantiate employee object. Then again I am creating employee object by using this constructor. So basically I am defining multiple constructors, and basis on the values that I am passing from here, appropriate constructor will execute and that will instantiate my class object. So this is a kind of implementation where I am overloading multiple constructors for different requirements. Here I am creating three different objects of employee class, and every time I'm having different parameters and then I'm printing the data. Let's run this and you can see for first employee I'm getting all three values. For second object I was only having name and age, and for third object I'm only having name. So accordingly my constructor is executing. It's just similar to method overloading. Now let's move to our next topic, which is instance block or init block. What is instance block or init block? Instance block or init block is used to define common code that is going to be common across multiple constructors in same class. So that instead of defining that common piece of code every single time for every single constructor separately, you can define inside the instance block or init block, and you can avoid the duplicacy of code. Now how that code is going to be executed? Whatever the code you are going to put inside the instance block or init block, that instance block or init block is going to execute just before the execution of every single constructor. Okay, instance block and init block is defined without any keyword. So for example, in this class I'm defining instance block here, and I'm not using any static or any init or anything here. Without any keyword I'm defining this, right? And you can also define it anywhere inside the class, but don't define it within a method. Outside the method and within a class, anywhere you can define it. Okay, now I am explaining you by this implementation so that you will have better understanding with this init block and instance block. What I am doing, I have a class, product class, which is having id, name, price, and count. Okay, I want to initialize name and price or product object by this constructor which is taking both of the values, then this constructor as well which is only taking name values, right? Let's try to understand instance block by this implementation. I have a product class which is holding id, name, and price properties, then a counter variable just to count number of products, and then I have defined one empty instance block. Don't worry, we will assign some code inside it. Okay, then I have total three constructors. One is non-parameterized constructor, another is taking name and price for object creation, and the third one is only taking name. As you guys already know and have seen in constructor overloading, I am just instantiating product class object in different ways. Then if you see, I'm not taking product ID value from any of the constructor argument, because I am dynamically generating that ID value from the constructor. And what I'm doing is I have static variable count which is initialized with 0. So any constructor will call for any of the object will increase counter from 0 to 1, and that is also assigned as an ID for that product object. Similarly, for second object also, if any constructor will invoke, will increase the counter from 1 to 2 and then assign that value as an ID as well. So this count is holding the number of product objects, but also I'm using this to assign the ID for my product. Okay. Now, if you see this part of code, increasing the counter and assigning that counter value as an ID for the object is keep repeating for every single constructor. Okay, that means that's something I am executing every single time for every single object creation. And this is how you can avoid code duplicacy using this instance block or init block. Sometimes they can ask you that can we define multiple instance block? Yes, we can define two init block or three init block inside the same class. In that case, in the same order that you are defining these instance block are going to execute one by one. For example, if you have two instance block, then first instance block will execute first, then second one will execute, and then the constructor will execute, right? So you can have multiple instance block as well inside the same class, but you don't need it. Okay, if you will have them, then those will execute in the same sequence that they are defined inside the class, but you don't need to do this because obviously when you are having some common code for every single constructor, you can have it inside one block only. You don't need to have or classified it in different init blocks. This is the main purpose or advantage of using init block.